Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. Join Stewart Heath for down-to-earth conversations with top professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders who have a story to tell. Let's get rolling.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. I am your host, Stewart Heath, founder and CEO of Harvard Grace Capital. And I'm just really excited to have Cody Smith as our guest here. He is a managing partner at SHR Talent. And we're going to get his story today. Anybody who's been watching us know that we love our entrepreneurial stories, and Cody's got a good one for us. Very interesting LinkedIn profile. Cody, thank you so much. We value your time. We know that anybody at the head of the organization has very little. We thank you for sharing yours with us.
Well, I appreciate y'all reaching out. I definitely don't feel very important and worth being on this call with you, but honored anybody who wants to hear my story. Hopefully it's worth a listen for you.
Well, we find it's the really humble ones that usually have the sage advice to share. So we're going to hold you to that standard. So again, thank you for joining us. Cody, as you look back over your career, is there a moment, or maybe more than one, that you would consider is a game changer that puts you on the path where you are today versus where you thought you were going to be?
Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was like 2007 when the housing market collapsed is what really set me on this journey. I went to school. I went to undergrad for accounting and did my master's in accounting and went to work for a CPA firm in Atlanta. And we mainly focused. You did that.
I'm a CPA.
I know you're a CPA. That's right. I was not smart enough to pass the CPA. I did not take the advice of the professors of our grad school program, which was knock it out before you start working. And I completed a part, I think maybe two parts. And then I said, I'm going to enjoy my last summer before I start entering the work world. And they were right. I was wrong. I slowly but surely, I didn't study enough for a couple other parts, and those parts lapsed, and
Yeah.
never ended up getting it. And I still regret it. I wish I would have gotten it. And my dad still reminds me of that too a lot. Every time we get
Dads are good for things like that. Yeah. I don't think I could do it again today, but I sure am glad to have those three letters myself. So
absolutely. Well, like I said, so I did my undergrad, did an internship in Atlanta in that firm, and a full-time role was extended upon completion of your master's. So I did that, went back to Atlanta, and then, we specialize in multifamily housing. And that was the main, industry that was rocked during that time frame, and made it through I think 2 busy seasons. And they were a great firm though. They set me up with a company here in Nashville as a soft landing. They said, "Hey, we've got somebody you think you hit it off with," and I did. They love to do things I love to do, and that's what brought me to Nashville. But we as a company at that time, it was too much for us to kind of crawl out of. And so I was on the market. So I went to find a recruiter here in town to figure out where I could go work next here in Nashville since I was new. And they hired me. They knew I was not a good accountant, and they said, "Let's just see if we can make a buck off of them that way." And long story short, that's how I got to it. So I would say the crisis in 2007-8 is what kind of put me here.
we actually hear that story quite a bit. People lose a job and then they start on this other great adventure. So you went to school for accounting and finance and ended up being an HR guy. That's the size of it.
Correct. I still focus though. I still get to stay close to accounting because a lot of the roles I work on are finance and accounting roles. So I get to stay close to it, but I don't have to, sit there and fret over trying to balance month end or anything anymore. So
I frankly think that my dad is the only person I ever knew that actually, 10 years later is actually still doing what they went to school to do. So my dad had one job after college and stayed with that company for 45 years, so you just don't hear that anymore. So.
No, I actually went to school to be an engineer. My dad had this elaborate plan. He's in the underground utility supply world, and he was like, "All right, if we can make you an engineer and you can get into some municipality, you can improve my product, and then we can start selling more pipe. And I was like, wait, okay.
Yeah. Hey, Dad, did you forget the part that it's my life? So,
Yeah, exactly.
oh, you gotta love it. So similar to the game changer, but but maybe on the flip or the dark side, if you would. Are there any bumps in the road that you've hit along your career and that you can share with us and how you dealt with them, how you got through? Maybe it's also a game changing moment, but just a challenge you've had to deal with and overcome.
Stuart, I feel like I'm that skier that's skiing for the first time, and he makes his way over to like the mogul section, where I'm hitting every bump along the way. I think that's just life, and
A good analogy. Yeah.
especially life in like in the shoes of starting your own business. I tell everybody in jest, but like in reality too, I've made every mistake twice. I'm not the quickest learner, I guess, because I've made the mistakes. I've made them twice. But as far as like so, I mean, to dig in and give you examples, right? I mean, I hired all my friends right out the gate. I was like, hey, let's start working. Let me hire my friends. This will be fun. I'll train them. Then I look up and there's no revenue coming in because, I'm a single sole practitioner starting out trying to make it happen. And so I've hired friends. I've deviated too far from what our specialty is. Um, I right out the gate too. I paid for like a phone system that cost like 5 or 10 grand back in the day, and everybody was already switching to cell phones, but I was still like, no, I gotta have a phone. So I mean, you name it, I've hit every bump along the way, but it's been great. I mean, you do learn from it.
Yeah.
I say I've made a lot of the same mistakes twice. I have, but I have learned from them and adjusted, and it has shaped kind of like the path that we're currently at this point in time.
So was hiring your friends that always ends well, right?
Yeah, it did not go great whatsoever. I think one of my friends, he's a trip. We're all still friends though, which
Well,
is
that's good. That's
the
good.
most important thing.
Doesn't always work like that.
No, he wanted us to throw a launch party for him, and so we threw a big party and everything. And then, a couple like weeks later, he's like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go do something completely different. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah.
And it's just it is what it is. It's you got to be very strategic, and you got to stay to your plan, and try to control the feelings, the emotions. I'm an emotion guy. Like I really drive off of that, which is not good, but it can be good too, right? So I've had to
Yeah.
learn. I'm like, all right, let's take the emotion piece out of it. Is this going to be best for our organization going forward? And if it is, rock and roll. If it's not, let's think about it.
Yeah. Now I've done all that before as well. Are any of them still working for you?
No.
Okay. But you're all still friends. Well, I mean, that's a win right there.
One of them came back, the launch party guy. He came back and hired somebody from us down the road. So it was that was a good testament there that our friendship.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. So one of the things I always like to ask my entrepreneurs guests uh, is how do you stay current? And there's staying current in your field, and then there's staying current in like technology. Absolutely loathe learning a new piece of software. Matter of fact, this morning before I got back here to my office to do this, I upgraded my computer, and it's already working differently, and it's just driving me crazy. And that's not really what I'm talking about, though. But how do you stay current? I mean, HR is a field that, like most fields, changes all the time.
Right.
What do you do if you want to call out certain podcasts or periodicals or whatever? How do you stay current, and how much time do you spend doing it?
That's a great question. Yeah, my jokes these days don't land like they used to, like 10 years ago, or my motivational speeches are all tired and like they've heard them 100 times. And so, yeah, it's internally, it's more so just knowing your people, I would say. getting to know them, getting to know like what their real motivators are. It took me a while to learn that not everybody is motivated by the same thing. That was another learning curve I had starting this. I'm like, nobody, not everybody's motivated by money. Like, what's going on? You know?
There's something wrong with those people,
Yeah, news to me, but no, getting to know them, getting to know what their passions are, what their motivators are. Everybody's different too from how you manage them, and then really figuring out what you're good at. Like I got to a point where I'm like, man, why am I in charge of marketing or why am I in charge of management? I'm not good at it. So finding somebody in your organization that's better than you are and like it, and if that doesn't exist internally, go out and get that person. So trying to just impact a business where where you feel like you can the most and provide the most value is kind of what we try to do. But as far as staying relevant, it's just what seems to happen with us from like a cycle standpoint, and I don't know if this is the case externally everywhere else, but you get really good at doing something, and then there's distractions along the way that eat up your time that take you away from like what got you there. And so that's what we try to really focus on is getting back to the basics, making sure that we're doing the things the right way, and not deviating from that, which is a lot of.
How is the overall job market these days? I mean, are y'all staying really busy?
We're still busy. We are. Last year was a slowdown for sure. It'll never be as slow as when I got into it. Nobody was hiring at that point. It was pretty wild. They were kind of confused why I wanted to jump into it at that time too, but I had no other options. But last year slowed down. There was quite a slowdown from the prior years. After COVID, it was gold rush. Crazy. Everybody fighting over talent. Whether people getting creative with their offerings, whether it's fully remote, cranking salaries up, other additional benefits that get people that matter to people. It's competitive, and so last year with there's a couple things at play. Interest rates, cash wasn't cheap anymore, and technology getting knocked down a peg or two, and then always on the precursor of an election year, things tend to slow down. So all three of those at once, we saw pretty significant decline in roles. But in the finance and accounting space, it's still incredibly competitive.
Yeah.
For,
Yeah, I've been looking to place somebody as an accounting manager or control in our organization for like 2 years, and we've tried all the overseas options, and I'll take some blame for that because the language barrier or just the cultural differences just don't let it work, and then you find people over here, and I'm just an old basic accountant. What we got is not hard. It's not hard to me, but people come in, they act like they've just never seen QuickBooks before and stuff like that. So anyway,
good. I know a good contact if you need to talk to somebody.
yeah, I now know again, and we may talk after this. So but there's just not as many people joining the profession either.
Correct. I did see a study about that. It's down pretty significantly, and kind of like when I was going through, economy was down, and our advisors were pushing us like, "Hey, where can I graduate and have a job?" And a lot of them pushed us towards accounting for that very reason.
Yeah. Well, I just can't imagine why people aren't just clamoring to get into finance and accounting. I mean, it's just
Awesome. Yeah, come on.
debits and credits are cool, man. So let's pivot a little bit. So I always like to ask our entrepreneurs, basically about personal finance outside of their organization, and I usually get one or two answers depending where you are in your journey as an entrepreneur. But what do you do with your investable cash outside? I'm not asking for account numbers or amounts or anything. Like, what asset classes do you like to invest in? Crypto, fine art, stocks, bonds, that kind of stuff. What do you do with your investable cash?
It all goes to Harpeth Valley Daycare Center. That's where the bulk of it goes. That's where I'm investing right now in their future. That's I
I get it. Yeah.
I do love real estate. I don't have a vast portfolio or anything like that, but I held on to the first house I bought. I have that as a rental over in like the Wedgwood, Houston area, which is great. And then the office here, there's actually two offices here that we scooped up in like 2000, I think 15, maybe 16, and then in 2019, no, 2021. So a little bit of real estate income, and then I've got a good buddy, childhood buddy I grew up with at Merrill Lynch, man, and I don't second guess him. I say, all right, take care of me, and where does it need to go, and how much? It's
Does he
kind
do okay by you?
he does a great job. Yeah, and the thing is, he's a great communicator.
Yeah.
And he knows, he knows me like really well, and he knows like what our risk tolerances are and what we're trying to do, long plan goals and things like that. I missed the crypto bubble. I had so many friends trying to tell me to get in there and or craze. I don't know if it was bubble, hopefully not, but I missed that too late.
I don't.
I don't know if it's too late. Yeah, I don't know if it's too late.
I've, I don't know if I missed it. I did watch it go by, but I don't understand it, and there's an awful lot of talk about it even now. But it's just a little too volatile to me. I do believe there's a difference between investing and gambling, or even trading, and most of the financial media is really about trading. It's not investing, and so now I'm just sounding like an old man. So, and that's okay. I'm good with that. So,
I've got a funny story to draw on though from college and one of our I think it was GB 490. It's like this business case study class where you study. It was really cool. You study companies and then you discuss it at the end. Like, all right, what's their competitive advantage? Do you think this company's going to make it? Do you don't? And one of the case studies that we did was Netflix. And right at the beginning, I think it was like $3 a share. And at the end of it, that teacher's like, look, I know y'all are college students and you don't have any money to invest, but you need to call your parents and you need to tell them that they need to load the ponies up with Netflix. And so I was like, all right. So I called my dad and he was like, Blockbuster's not going anywhere. Netflix. Like, you know what? I'll tell you what, son.
they were still mailing out DVDs then, right?
He was like, look, son, that teacher's a teacher for a reason, okay? Because he couldn't cut it in the real world. So Blockbuster's here to stay. And so one Christmas I got like a Blockbuster mug or something like that, just to remind him. And so
well, now you got something you can remind your dad about. So
yeah, correct.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, I can hear my dad saying the same thing. And for every one of those you were right about, you probably could have been wrong about 20 of them. But
100%.
yeah, that is funny though. So, all right, coming to the last question here. Cody, if you were mentoring someone, or if somebody just wanted to follow in your footsteps, what one piece of advice would you give them?
I wish you just sent me these questions before the call, but no, that's great. Find something. I would say find something you're passionate about, because and like something you're willing to dedicate all your time to, and because you get distracted. Like as the business grows, you'll get pulled in different directions. And then if that core piece of like interest and passion lies into the role that like into the craft that you're working in, like you can always get recentered, is what I would say.
Yeah, good. And it makes sense. You referred to yourself as an emotional guy, and you say find something to be passionate about. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Totally congruent. I love it.
There's a lot of times where you throw your hands up and you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I started out, I thought I started this work less or whatever it is. And if that is your reason for wanting to start a business, like keep working where you're working. That's
you need to keep your job. Yeah. You're not going to work less. You're not going to work less.
100%.
Well, thank you very much. If anybody wanted to get in contact with you, any of the viewers, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Just go to our website, shrtalent.com, and all our contact information's on there. If you like hated listening to me on this podcast, we have a very talented team here, and everybody is really good at their craft, and we care about who we partner up with.
Great. I will make sure that gets into the show notes. It'll be easy for our audience to just click and connect with you guys. So, Cody, once again, thank you so much for taking the time out today. I know your time is precious, and we appreciate you sharing some of yours with us.
Thank you for reaching out. I've had a blast. This is fun.
Thank you to our audience for watching this episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. Be sure to come back and watch the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. If you'd like to be a guest, visit growthgraceprosperity.com/guest. We'd love to hear your story.